Today I want to talk about the history and production of an everyday object whose design has become so widespread that most people don't realize what an amazingly designed product it is. I'm talking about the lowly pencil. I'll first go through a brief survey of the history of writing instruments, because I think it's important to understand that a great deal of product design, like that of the pencil, actually occurs through a process of evolution. It's not the brainchild of one genius inventor or an expensive design consultant to start. In the beginning, then, the first crude writing instruments were probably sharpened stones used by the earliest humans to scratch drawings on cave walls. Then, about 10,000 years ago, merchants in the Middle East discovered that they could use sticks or rods of various sorts to make impressions in tablets of wet clay. These clay surfaces weren't perfect. They were bulky, and you couldn't fold them up in your pocket, but you could move them about and use them to represent various transactions and keep records. In Europe, the early Greeks and Romans tended to utilize a writing stylus fashioned from bone to write on tablets. So this represented an advance in the design of the writing instrument. In Asia, the Chinese were the first people to combine soot with oil and other ingredients in order to produce ink, which they applied with brushes with some variation and improvement. This technique is still widely used in China today. Back in the West, the writing instruments which dominated for the longest period in history, from about 700 AD for 1,000 years, were pens made from feathers, used initially on parchment, made of animal skins and later on paper. And so matter stood when, in 1564, a source of pure graphite was discovered in England, and that discovery led to a revolution in writing the creation of the pencil. Graphite is a dark gray or black mineral which can be used to make semi-permanent marks on a variety of surfaces, including paper. Initially, when used for writing, the graphite was covered in string or enclosed in a metal tube. But these methods proved to be poor designs, and in the late 17th century, makers of graphite writing instruments began inserting the graphite into wooden sticks, which had been hollowed out by hand. And so the basic design of the modern pencil was established. There have been minor changes over the years. The early mass-produced pencils were bare to show off their high-quality wood casings. But by the 1890s, many manufacturers were using paint to make their pencils more eye-catching, with an increasingly sophisticated eye to marketing. Some of them also came up with a catchy name for their pencils to increase their distinctiveness. Particularly so, school children would develop a habit of always buying a particular brand.